welcome back to the channel, guys. I'm actually so excited to bring this video to you guys because this is going to be a full, complete, no bullshit, in-depth prop firm guide for everybody looking to utilize prop firms, whether that be futures or CFD/Forex. I'm going to explain to you every single prop firm opportunity that you can utilize and explain every single prop firm fully in depth so you have zero issues understanding the rules. For those who don't know me, my name is Arbaz, also known as AA Bands FX. I'm a verified prop firm trader who's made over $300,000 in verified trading profits through proprietary trading firms. And again, my whole page is designed to teach you guys the skill set of day trading, the intricacies, the nuances, and just everything that can help you become an elite level day trader while skipping the years of just struggling that doesn't work. As you guys can see, this is a pretty in-depth guide. Again, this is not going to be a bullshit guide. It took me a while to make this layout, and yeah, let's just get into it. So what are prop firms, right? So for people who are new to my page or just new to the trading space in general, prop firms are not really a widely known, retail prop firms at least, they're not a widely known endeavor for people trying to endeavor into day trading. But they're essentially just retail companies that give you simulated capital to trade with after completing a challenge to test your trading abilities. So they're not like normal proprietary trading firms at like a hedge fund or like a quant fund or just some type of subdivision of some type of bank or institution. But as a retail trader, they can give you a significant edge if you have lack of capital, but you have the skill of trading. So why should you use them, right? So they allow you to leverage the capital, as I just said, to potentially make more money than if you are on a personal account. So why should you use them? Because they essentially allow you to leverage your capital to potentially make more money than if you were on a personal trading account, but also all the risk is taken up by the retail prop firm, right? If you deposit like, $50,000 into a brokerage account, right? Beginner day traders don't know what they're doing, right? They might not even have the psychological discipline to deal with that type of money. So, the stat shows that, 90% of day traders, 95% of day traders lose all of their money within 3 months after depositing into a personal account. And, on a prop firm account, you're not risking your own, your own savings, your own funds. And yeah, most retail day traders do not also have capital to make money on, like who has 50K, 20K, 30K saved around. So they can't really make a livable wage with the small initial capital size. I've said this multiple times, but to go full time as a day trader, you need about $80,000, right? If you have about $50,000 to $80,000 in a personal account, you're risking 1 to 2% per trade. You can definitely make this a full-time income month to month. So as you guys know, there's two types of prop firms, right? Futures and CFD prop firms. So this is also known as Forex. But, in general, in the trading world, right, you will have different types of trading. You have obviously stock trading, futures trading, options trading, and CFD trading. And obviously options trading is just kind of like a derivative of stock trading. But, futures and CFDs essentially are what we're used to, right? Of what, we're making essentially bets on the price of an asset in the future, or just betting on the the value of the price essentially if you're trading CFDs. Now there are not really any prop firms for options or stock trading. It's not really a thing. Maybe there's like one or two, but again, nobody knows about them. The main meat of this industry on the retail side is going to be futures as well as CFDs. So you guys might know about CFDs. CFDs are the professional way of saying you trade Forex, right? When you're trading on MT4 back in the day at least, or on a CFD broker, you're trading CFD contracts, but people just refer that to as Forex. Now, again, I'm a U.S. citizen, so a lot of you guys probably watching this as well. You guys are U.S. citizens as well. This video is specifically going to be for people who are U.S. citizens / residents. As you guys know, if you were in this industry last year, 2024, MetaQuotes, who owned MT4 and MT5, they essentially dipped out of the industry. They left, and U.S. clients cannot trade on MetaTrader 4 and MetaTrader 5 anymore, so U.S. clients are forced to switch over to futures trading. Now, that's not to say the opportunity for CFD prop firms doesn't exist. It's still there, but there's very few options to deal with now. And I can tell you that, based on my research, based on my analysis, I only want what's best for you guys. And the only two CFD firms, with the exception of another one coming soon, I'll talk about it after this, is going to be Think Capital and Alpha Capital Group. Okay, Think Capital is a broker-backed prop firm. You guys know the broker is going to be Think Markets, but essentially we're going to cover the webpage a little bit later. This is going to be the link for it. Obviously, do your own due diligence based on your own funds, etc. But in terms of scalability and having the max amount of funding possible to make the most amount of money possible, right? As someone who's able to invest in these challenges with a high amount of money, I'm going to be doing the stats for just all of the max funding that you can get with these prop firms. So with Think Capital, the max funding is $600K. you can have two 300K funded accounts. Again, funded accounts, what are they? Let's go back here real quickly to people who don't know. They are essentially accounts that are simulated, right? It's a simulated demo test. And if you can prove to the prop firm, to the fund, that you can, make 8%, 5%, whatever their rules are, their targets are, they will give you a live simulated funded account, right? A simulated funded account. And then on that simulated funded account, you can, whatever profits you make on that, you can withdraw a percentage split up to your bank account as real money. That's essentially just how this works very simply. Okay, so with Think Capital, you can have two 300K accounts allowed. It's a two-phase challenge. That's the best format of the challenge that you should go for, right? First phase is 8%, so you have to make an 8% profit on the account, and then phase 2 is going to be a 5%, so you want to make 5% after that on phase 2, and after you hit those requirements, you'll have a fully funded account. And again, the max is 600K. Now for the max loss limit and the daily loss limit, you have 8% as the max loss limit at any given time, and the daily loss limit is 4%. So you cannot lose more than 4% on the day, and you cannot lose more than 8% total. Now this 8% max loss limit is static. So let's say you make 4% profit, and now you're only 4% away from passing phase 2. It's going to be based on 8% of the initial account size, so it's not going to trail. This doesn't trail. Okay, that's the benefit of CFD firms. It doesn't trail. Now I trade gold. You guys know this. I'm a specialist in gold, ZAUSD, and the leverage on that is going to be 1 to 30. In my experience, if you want to risk about 0.5% or 1% on a kind of a tight stop, 1 to 30 leverage is good enough, right? You're going to be risking anywhere from that 0.25% to 1% range on a tight stop. Now you can risk 2% to 4% on bigger stops. It's all up to you. I can't tell you what to do, but the leverage is pretty good, I'd say. And again, the real benefit is balance-based daily drawdown. So for you guys who don't know how drawdown works, right? The drawdown that they give you, the daily loss limit, they can calculate that based on your equity or your balance. Okay, so for you guys who don't know what that means, right? Your equity is going to be your balance plus your floating P&L at the end of the trading day. We all know that at the end of the trading day, I'm actually gonna show you guys over here real quick, a little mini lesson. We'll pull up the charts as well during the same time. And are we on gold? Let's pull this out right here. So the markets will actually close at 5 o'clock EST and open up at 6 o'clock EST. So every day the markets will close at this time. Okay, I have it lined up perfectly with my Asian session indicator. And depending on if you're, with CFD firms, you can hold positions into the next day, right? Depending on if you have floating money in your position, like let's say you want to hold your trade, you get in right here and you want to hold your trade, all the way to up here. Well, in terms of the day, right, the next day happens over here. So with CFD firms, Forex firms, you can actually hold positions intra-week, but you have to understand the way they calculate the drawdown can be a double-edged sword or a detriment to your trading, because if it's based on equity, your floating P&L plus the balance, you can't really hold trades, because if that trade retraces on you even in profit, you're going to get stopped out. Now, balance-based means regardless if your trade is floating in profit, it's going to calculate that daily drawdown based on the balance. Okay, so I can't really pull up let's say here, let's give an example, right? So let's say we have a 300K account really quickly, $300,000. Okay, $300,000. Okay, 8%, right, of the here, let's pull this up real quick. 8% max loss limit is going to be what? 1% is 3K. Okay, so 8% is going to be 24K. So the max loss limit on this is going to be what? 200,700, or I can't even speak, guys. $276,000, right? That's your max loss limit. Okay, now obviously your daily is going to be half that. If you have a 4% daily loss limit, right? Let's just say you're starting out the account. That means you cannot go below $288,000 in your overall account before you blow it. Okay, now let's say, right, you are in a good trade. You're in a trade that's up, let's say 6K. Okay, it's 6K as you're holding it into the next day. So you're holding it into the next day after market closes and then it opens up. Okay, instead of calculating your drawdown based on your new account, your equity, which is floating at what? $306,000, is going to calculate it based on the original account size of $300,000. Okay, so when you hold this trade that's floating up $6,000 in profit into the next day, right, your daily loss limit is still going to be $288,000 if the firm offers balance-based daily drawdown. Okay, if it doesn't, it's going to be calculated based off this $306,000, which means if you were with a firm that had equity-based drawdown, daily drawdown, your new daily loss limit, if it was calculated based off this, is going to be what? It's going to be about $293,000, I think. $293,000. So obviously, you can see it doesn't take a genius to see which is better. Obviously, this is better because you have more drawdown to work with. You're incentivized to hold your trade into the next day, right? And hold your floating profits, and you can make even more money. But if this is $293,000 now, if your trade that's even in profit retraces on you to maybe break even or in profit, you could potentially breach your account because you have less drawdown to work with now. All right, so I hope that made sense. Little quick lesson on daily drawdown, and if it's balanced Mr. equity based. And the benefit is with this, with this firm, payouts are every 14 days. Now, here's the math, right? For the total, it's going to be two 300K accounts, which is 600K in funding. The total cost for 600K in funding on their Think Trader platform is going to be $2,800. Wow, crazy, right? $2,800. So that is the total cost for, everything. You guys know CFDs don't have activation fees or whatever as futures firms do. But it's 2.8K, $2,800. Okay. The second firm is going to be Alpha Capital Group. So as you guys know, I have gotten payouts with Alpha Capital Group. Okay. And with them, their max accounts are going to be two 200K accounts. So you can have 400K in funding, same thing. Two-phase challenge. Phase 1 is 8% profit target. Phase 2 is 5% profit target. But with Alpha Capital Group, you have a little bit more leeway. So your loss limit is 10% on the max, and the daily is 5%. And you have about 1 to 30 leverage on gold. And again, you have balance-based daily drawdown. Absolutely beautiful. You love to see it, right? And payouts every 14 days. Now, with their payout rule, I can tell you this. They did update it a couple months ago where you have to have a minimum number of trading days. I think 5 trading days to request a payout on the first payout. But then after that, you don't have to have any required trading days. So I think it's like 5 trading days on the first payout. Then after that, you're good to go. And with them, you can withdraw through Rise, Wise, ACH, whatever that might be. Again, the max funding is going to be 400K in funding, and the total account cost for that is going to be $2,000. Now, note, I'm not including discount codes. We're just going to assume at the end that discount codes give about a 20% discount, and then we can kind of pull that together. So if you can see right here, you can get $1 million in CFD funding for about 4.8K. Now, if they offer a 20% discount, assuming Think Capital and Alpha Capital Group do, right? It's going to be, let's see, do the math here real quick. It's going to be about $3,800. So you're saving about $1,000 on every single on this whole package if you want to go through Think Capital and Alpha Capital Group both. And yeah, about 3.8K for $1 million of funding. So I hope that made sense. Obviously, there's many more options. There's FTMO, there's Funded Next, there's a couple other CFD options that you can use. Again, I don't trade CFDs anymore. You guys know this with the whole craze. But if you guys want me to make a video, like a full in-depth video on every single firm individually, CFD funding-wise, I can definitely do that. Now, the next firm, right, that I didn't put here, but it's the Funded Trader. As you guys know, the Funded Trader, the CEO is going to be Angelo, Saved by FX. You guys know they had some operational issues last year, but they are making a full comeback. I remember I am owed about $15,000, 15.5K in payouts with the Funded Trader, as well as 600K in funding, and I'm pretty confident that I will get that back at some point, hopefully. But yeah, you can definitely look into them if you like their models and use them if you want. But again, I would say in general, Think Capital and Alpha Capital Group are very, very, very solid right now. Okay. Now let's get into futures firms. Now the futures industry has exploded, guys, absolutely exploded. Okay. There's never been, I think, more hype in an industry than futures. And again, same thing as CFDs. You're just trading on an actual CME, or what am I saying? You're trading on a regulated exchange through the CME group. All right, and the platforms are going to be a bit different. I can definitely cover in another video the platforms to trade futures on, but it's going to be Tradeovate, NinjaTrader, and TopStep X or whatever. We'll get into that, okay? But the futures firms that you want to utilize and you have options to is going to be TopStep, MyFunded Futures, Alpha Futures, Apex Trader Funding, Tradeify, Take Profit Trader, and Funded Futures Family. These are all the companies, okay? And I'm going to break down exactly every single rule you need to know for every single firm, and how, again, you can utilize the funding and the total cost, right? So let's start with the golden egg, the golden goose, TopStep. TopStep is the most reputable funding trader program in the industry. They've been around since 2016, and you cannot go wrong with them. I have gotten multiple payouts with TopStep, and And yeah, man, I can tell you that they've just been amazing to me, right? Very smooth process, their platforms, etc. Really good stuff, right? So you guys might not know any of the rules, but I'm going to explain everything, as I said, fully in depth, like a child can understand, okay? So you can have 5 accounts, okay? The max funding with them is about $750K if you choose to get 5 150K accounts, but in general, it's 5 accounts at any given one time that can be live and activated, okay? Now, Top Step has something called a end-of-day realized trailing drawdown, okay? A end-of-day realized trailing drawdown means that your drawdown limit, okay, your max drawdown limit will increase based on your new account balance at the end of the day. And this value is always going to be 3%, okay? Now, the profit target for that is going to be 6%. So you have to make 6%. And remember, these futures firms are usually one step. They're not 2-step. It's just a one-phase evaluation where after you pass it, you will get your funding and you'll get your accounts. And then whatever money you make after that, you will be able to get paid. Okay, so 6% profit target, 3% end of day realized trailing drawdown. Now I'm gonna give you an example. Let's do a quick little explanation of end of day realized trailing drawdown to kind of tell you how it works. Okay, so for a 150K account, all right, let's just say you're going with a 150K account with Top Step. Okay, the profit target is what? $9,000. 6% of this is $9,000. So you have to make $9,000 profit. Okay, now at any given time, you cannot lose $4,500. It is a 3% trailing drawdown. You cannot lose $4,500. Okay? $4,500. Now, what does this mean? This means that after you make $4,500, let's say you make, take it a step back. So Top Step also has something called a consistency rule. So you cannot just make $9,000 in one day and pass. It has to be split through 2 days. So you can only have a limit of making about 3% per day. So if you want to pass and really fast, the minimum amount of time that you can pass is 2 days. Okay, so you have to make $4,500 on day 1 and then $4,500 on day 2. But my point is saying, look, because of this rule, since it's end of day trailing drawdown, when you make $4,500, okay, so you're gonna be at what, 154. Well, let me delete this, actually delete all of this right now. When you make $4,500, okay, on day 1, right, that's 3% profit. When the next day starts, right, when the next day rolls over, right, into the next day, your drawdown is not going to be calculated based off the original $150,000, okay? It's going to be calculated based on $154,000, 500, whatever, $154,000, 500, right? Whatever that is. I can't even draw, guys. Oh my god. I need like a notepad that I can like draw on to give you these good drawings. But yeah, that's going to be your new balance, right, at the end of the day that the drawdown is now calculated off of. So you now cannot go below $150,000. Okay? $150,000, you cannot go below that. Okay, guys? You cannot go below this. Now, again, this means that at any given time, you cannot lose more than 3%. Very simple. Okay? And then obviously once you hit the 6%, you pass, and then yeah, that's it, it's done after that. Well, let me explain. When we get to the fund account, it's a bit different. So once you pass on your fund account, it still happens, but what happens is once you make that 3%, it locks. It never moves past that point anymore. So you can make 3% on your account, and then anything, let's say you make 20% on your account now, it's still going to be locked in at $150,000. Like you cannot lose more than that, or your accounts are gone, right? But I talk about that right here. So you can't make more than 3% profit on the evaluation combine in one day. This is called a consistency rule. And once you passed, you're then on an XFA account. So the XFA is just a fancy name for a fund account. It's called the Express Fund Account. That's what Top Step uses, but it's a live simulated fund account, right? It's just a fancy name for a fund account. Okay. Now remember, there's different platforms that you can use, right? Tradeovate, NinjaTrader, whatever, but Top Step has their own in-house platform called Top Step X. And Top Step X, you guys know, I'm not going to talk about mini and micro contracts or whatever, you guys should know this, but they have one-to-one mini to micro scaling. So for example, the limit that they give you is 15 mini contracts on Top Step X, which means you have access to 150 micro contracts, okay, on Top Step X. Now, on alternative platforms like using Rhythmic through NinjaTrader or Tradeovate, you don't have the one-to-one scaling, I'm pretty sure, as well as you have a daily pause limit of about 2% on those accounts. Okay, and that's really it. So continuing on, right, you can request a payout on the account every 5 winning days of $200. So the requirement to request a payout is you have to have 5 winning days of $200 plus. Now, again, that doesn't mean you should withdraw a payout. That's just the requirement. And as I said, once you make 3% profit on the XFA, the funded accounts, okay, the end of day trailing drawdown locks at the initial balance. Now, they also have something called a scaling contract rule. The scaling contract rule means that you don't have access to 15 minis until you make 3% profit on the XFAs. Now, I'm not going to go into the chart again, but essentially it's like every $1,000, $1,500 you make, you get access to more and more contracts. But then when you make that 3% profit, so $4,500 on the XFA, you have full access to as many contracts as you want, which is 15 minis or 150 micros. Another thing is, they have a $5,000 payout cap per withdrawal. So you cannot withdraw more than $5,000 per withdrawal per period on an account. Okay. Now, again, theoretically, if you have, 5 trading days every week, you can, and you're making $5,000 every single week, you can technically, in theory, withdraw up to $100K a month. 75 to $100K a month. In theory, it's possible. All right. And as I said, on the accounts, you have 5 150K accounts, right? That's the max funding, which is what, $750K in funding, which then means the total cost of funding, again, with the challenge and activation fees. Activation fees are just fees that these firms make you pay after you pass a challenge so they can make more money. But the challenge and activation fees, it's $1,500, okay? So if you want to get max funding with Top Step, $750K in funding, it's going to be $1,500, the challenge fee and the activation fee. All right. Okay. So now the next firm that we're going to go to is My Funded Futures. Okay. My Funded Futures, in my opinion, is the second most leading firm and the second most reputable firm in this industry to get payouts and get money, etc. And yeah, really good experience with them. You guys know the owner, Matt Leach. He opened up his original firm, My Funded FX, about 3 years ago, and it was a number one leading prop firm in the CFD space, as y'all know. And then he decided to open up the sister company, My Funded Futures, for the futures space. All right. So with My Funded Futures, we're going to be talking about the expert accounts. Again, choose your account based on your funds you have, based on your requirements, your skill level, etc. I'm going to be talking about the highest quality, the max funding accounts in general, just the highest of the highest, cream of the crop type accounts, etc. And yeah, the expert accounts is what you want to be going for. Okay, the expert accounts, you have 3 accounts allowed, and same rule as Top Step is 3% end of day realized trailing drawdown. Again, same thing as Top Step. Okay. And 8% profit target. Now, the benefit is there is no consistency rule on the funded account, or not the funded account, the challenge phase. So you can technically make 8% profit in a day and pass. You don't have to make 4% in one day, then 4% on another day. You can just make 8% in one day and pass, and it's great. Now, there's no activation fee with My Funded Futures. It's built into the initial cost. So the challenge cost is $477 per month. Okay, and there's no one-to-one mini to micro scaling. So if you have 15 contracts that are allowed on your, on the accounts, the 150K accounts, you do not have access to 150K micros. You have access to 15 micros, if that makes sense. So there's no one-to-one mini to micro scaling. Now, once you make 3% profit on the funded account, the end of day trailing drawdown, same thing as with Top Step, will lock at the initial balance. It's the beauty of it. And again, you can request a payout every 14 calendar days. Now, be aware of this. A lot of people have been talking on Twitter, on YouTube, thinking, "Oh my God, My Funded Futures didn't pay me out because I didn't put a trade in for the week, and then they breached my account." Okay, guys, please understand, you should be day trading, right? If you can't put one trade every 5 days, come on, guys, you're not day traders, right? So make sure with My Funded Futures, again, you put in one trade every single 5 days. Okay, every 5 days, make sure you're in at least one trade, just so your account does not get flagged for inactivity. Okay, please understand that. All right, guys. Now, again, the max with them is 450K in funding. You can have 3 150K accounts, and the total cost for 450K in funding, the challenge plus activation fee that's already built in, is $1,431. So 1.4K basically, and that is My Funded Futures. It's basically just again a Top Step clone, and in terms of the ruling, right? And again, more funding, more money, right? That you can make. Okay, the next firm we're going to be talking about is Alpha Futures. So Alpha Futures, as you can probably guess, is going to be the sister company of Alpha Capital Group, CFD or whatever, Forex, right? So Alpha Capital Group, right? They made Alpha Futures, the sister company, to get into the future space and obviously be another competitor and give more opportunity to traders, right? And I'm really, really liking Alpha Futures. I think these three companies, these three firms, are going to be the golden standard if you want to go with them. I'm going to again talk about my whole opinion on what I think is the best method of going about this, right? But Alpha Futures, let's get into it. So you want to be going for the advanced accounts, and also I do have an affiliate code that I am going to link in the bio for all these prop firms. If you guys want to trade with them, etc., I am going to be putting the links down in the bio. And yeah, I hope you can use them. And yeah, all right. Now the advanced accounts, right? It's basically the same thing as the expert accounts on My Funded Futures, right? You have 3 accounts that are allowed, and now with Alpha Futures, you have a little bit more drawdown to work with at the end of the day. It's about 3.5% based on the 150K accounts. But again, it's not really too important. It's still going to be basically the same thing, 3%. You want to kind of treat them the same way. So 3% end of day realized drawdown, 8% profit target, and the challenge cost is going to be $419 a month. So if you noticed, My Funded Futures is a little bit expensive. It's $477, and Alpha Futures is again more expensive. But again, that's just how it is. The activation cost after you pay that challenge cost is $149 for the account. So it's $419 plus $149 essentially if you get a full pass. The beauty of it also though is you have 1-to-1 mini to micro scaling, so you do have 15 minis and 150 micros to use on the advanced accounts on Alpha Capital Groups, Alpha Futures. And again, once you make 3.5% on the funded accounts, the end of day trailing drawdown will lock at the initial balance. And another thing is you can actually request a payout every 7 days. So if that is beneficial to you guys, great. But you can request a payout every 7 calendar days. And they also have again a scaling contract rule as they do on Top Step. You don't have access to 15 minis until you make 3.5% profit on the funded accounts. Now, one more thing I do want to say is, per account, they have a limit per payout of $15,000. So as you guys remember, on Top Step, they have a limit of $5,000 payout cap per withdrawal on their accounts. But Alpha Futures, they have $15,000. Okay, so $15,000. Again, are you going to make $15,000? Probably not. But again, it's just something to know. That's the cap per account. So in theory, if you max out all your 3 accounts, you can make $45,000 every single 7 calendar days. In theory, right? And yeah, $450K in funding, and the total cost with the challenge and activation fee is $1.7K if you want max funding, and you're going to pay the challenge and activation fee. All right, now let's get into Tradeify. Okay, Tradeify, I wouldn't really use them. I don't really like them. In my opinion, they have a straight to funded live program. I would not be using them. I'd be using the same format as the other accounts, the growth account, which is again the same format as everything else, not like some sim to live gimmick or whatever. The issue with the sim to live fund, if you guys have gone down the rabbit hole and you've done your research on that, is essentially you can only take out about 15K every, I think, 2 weeks or like every 3 weeks based on some rules. And again, the ROI doesn't really make sense to me if you're kind of capped at that point. So again, if you don't want to pass challenges and you're okay with the rules and whatnot, great, go for it. But we're only going to be talking about the growth account on Tradeify. And okay, actually, before we continue to Tradeify, let's kind of go to the other to all the websites to kind of show you, right? So you can see for Ramadan, there's a 20% off code for Think Capital, right? This is their website, thinkcapital.com. Alpha Capital Group UK, this is their website as well, so you can see all of their plans, all of the information over there. Shout out my boy Arman, cool guy, killer trader. But yeah, going on to Top Step, this is Top Step's website, topstep.com. You can buy your challenges through here, scroll down and just take a look. Again, I've condensed all the rules that you need to know into one single place, so you don't even have to go through all the rules and shit. Just shoot me a DM if you don't have if you don't understand something, but this is literally all you need to know. So for My Funded Futures, I can't actually show the website because for some reason it just shows my credentials and kind of like docks myself. I don't know why it does that, but you just go on myfundedfutures.com and then you can see all the rules, right? So now let's talk about Alpha Futures. So Alpha Futures, again, this is the website. Really, really cool stuff. This is how it works. You can see all of the rules, etc. But again, you don't have to go through all this because I have everything for you because I love you guys right here. So that's the funding for that. Now, Tradeify, right? This is the website for Tradeify, tradeify.co. Again, as I said, you want to go for the growth accounts. So you can see right here, straight to sim funded. This means you don't have a challenge account. You just can go straight to your funded account. Again, we're going to be talking about the growth accounts because I think that these are just kind of gimmicky in a sense, and there's really no benefit, honestly. If you're going to pass challenges anyway and go with all the firms, just go with the growth accounts, right? Basic challenge type. But yeah, the growth accounts, you can have 5 accounts. So with them, it's 3.3% end of day realized drawdown and a 2.5% daily pause. So this is kind of like their daily loss limit. So it's essentially just another term for daily loss limit. So you can't lose more than 2.5% in a day, or not on the day, before they just pause you out for the day and you can't trade anymore. Same thing like Top Step. If you're gonna take a challenge on like Trade or like NinjaTrade or on Rhythmic on another platform, but 3.3% end of day realized drawdown, and the profit target is 6%. So the challenge cost is $339 for a growth account, and you do have 1-to-1 mini to micro scaling. Once you make 3.3% profit on the fund account, the end of day trailing will lock, and you can request a payout every 10 trading days of $250. And I don't actually know if they have a scaling contract rule. It doesn't really say. I'm gonna assume yes. Let's just assume worst case rule. They do have a scaling contract rule. I couldn't find it in their help center FAQ, but that's all you need to know. Again, 5 accounts, $750K in funding, and the total cost for not $450K in funding, $750K in funding, let's edit that real quickly, is going to be $1,695. So $1,600, $1,700, basically the same as this cost with the activation fees. As you can see, they kind of build it in, I think, the activation fees. So $339 times 5, about $1,700, right? Now that is Tradeify. So we've already finished all of these. Now let's go into Take Profit Trader. Now, Take Profit Trader, I'm really liking them as a new and upcoming firm. I think they have a lot of potential. Again, you got to make sure you understand your rules, etc. But this is their website. And Take Profit Trader, the real benefit with them is essentially you can have same day withdrawals, day one withdrawals. So if you make money in your funded account, you can essentially withdraw that to your bank same day, instantaneously, ACH, which is kind of crazy, or like Wire or whatever. Real time transfer, how they do it, okay? But with Take Profit Trader, okay, you have 5 accounts that are allowed, 3% end of day realized drawdown on the eval only. So again, there's realized drawdown and unrealized drawdown. Now we're going to talk about unrealized drawdown when we talk about Apex. I've covered them already in another video, but with realized drawdown on the eval, it means you can, it's the same thing like Top Step, My Funded Futures, etc. It's just realized, right? So you can only make 3% on day one, right? And then the next day rolls over, and then now your drawdown is based off 3% off the new account size, which means you can't go to your initial balance, or you're going to lose the account, and you just got to make another 3% after that, right? But on the funded account, again, I should highlight this even more, the drawdown is unrealized, okay? The drawdown is unrealized on the funded account until 3% profit is made, okay? After 3% profit's made, it locks at the initial balance like every other firm, and then now it's not unrealized. So what is unrealized trailing drawdown? I'm going to do a quick little lesson for you guys right here. Unrealized trailing drawdown, it says your floating profits, right? If you're in a trade, it's essentially saying your drawdown will trail based on your floating unrealized profits on trades that are not closed. So for example, let me give you an example and why it can be so detrimental. Okay, so let's say you enter in this trade right here. Okay, you have a let's say a 20 tick stop. Okay, if you were in this trade, as price keeps going in profit like this, your drawdown, the limit that they give you of 3%, will trail based on this new price data. So let's say you're risking 1% on this trade. Okay, let's say this area is 1%. Okay, 1%. I can't even draw correctly. 1%. Okay, this means that if price is here now, let's say price gets over here, right? And actually, let's delete this real quick. If price gets over here, right here, and this is your trade, and you're risking 1% with the stop loss size, this means that if price, even if it's in profit, remember, this is your entry, this is technically in profit. If price retraces and hits this price level right here, you're technically going to be down 1% based on the unrealized trailing drawdown. And if price, God forbid, goes and retraces all the way down to here, you lost 3% and blown your account. And that's what people don't understand about unrealized trailing drawdown. The goal with unrealized trailing drawdown is to scalp. Go for negative RR or 1-to-1 scalps so you don't have retraces. That's the whole goal and the whole way to kind of navigate unrealized trailing drawdown. Okay? So in this case, you don't want to take this trade, right? Let's say you do want to take this trade. This trade is technically, in theory, the same trade as this. Let's just say we're going for a 1-to-1, right? You can take a 1 to 7 RR trade, like this, a 1 to, let's make this 1 to 7 just for whole number purposes, a 1 to 7 trade RR like this, or 7 1-to-1 RR trades. Okay, and that is how you navigate through unrealized trailing drawdown, because you do not want to have price retrace on you even if it's in profit, because the drawdown is calculated based on your floating profits. Okay, very simple. If this explanation didn't make sense to you, I don't know what to tell you. Okay, now challenge cost $360 per month. Again, I don't know if there's activation fees. I don't think there is, but again, double check on that. We're just gonna assume that there isn't. Okay, if you go over here, you can kind of see. Actually, let's go over here real quick to the pricing. You can see right here, $360 a month. Right, I'm assuming there's no activation fees. If there are, then obviously this is going to be a little bit more expensive. But you do have 1-to-1 mini micro scaling, and again, once you make 3% profit on the funded account, the end of day trailing drawdown locks at the initial balance, and you can request a payout whenever you want. So let's say in theory you pass your account. Let's say you make 1% profit, right? Obviously, you don't want to withdraw that, because if you withdraw that, now you only have 2% drawdown to work with on your account. But you can technically just withdraw a payout whenever you want, which is kind of crazy. And again, on the eval, you cannot make more than 3% profit on the evaluation in a day, because there is a consistency rule. Very simple. So again, for 5 150K accounts, for 750K in funding, that is going to be a total cost of $1,800. Okay, very simple. Now let's go on to the last two. We're gonna talk. I can't even speak. We're gonna talk about funded futures family, okay, and Apex Trader funding. So funded futures family, again, not a favorite of mine. We're not gonna cover them too in depth. Okay, just again another. I'm pretty sure they're using the same platform provider as Alpha Futures, but again, nothing crazy. They are paying out though. You can have 4 accounts, 3% end of day realized drawdown. So like My Funded Futures, Top Step, Apex Futures, 6% profit target. Challenge cost $300, 1-to-1 mini to micro scaling, and then once you make 3% profit, it locks, and then you can request a payout every 7 days of $200 plus. And again, you cannot make more than 3% profit on the evaluation in 1 day. Consistency rule, and on the fund accounts, you also do have a consistency rule, so you cannot make more than I can't even think about the number. So 40%. Again, your best day cannot be 40% of your total profits. That's all it is, right? Now with them, 600K in funding. Challenge plus activation fee is going to be 1.2K. Very simple. Okay, now Apex Trader funding, arguably the largest prop firm apart from Top Step, the most money you can technically make with a prop firm, I'd say, was going to be through Apex Trader funding. You guys know they went through some backlash in the spring, and not the spring, in the summer and the fall of 2024. But I do think they are back now, and this is going to be the full guide on like what you should do with them. So again, this is how you should do this. Okay, you want to get 20 accounts, or what they allow is 20 accounts, but you want to get 20 50K accounts. Okay, because I think 50K accounts are the best in terms of the profit target to drawdown ratio, as well as the number of contracts that you get per $1,000, or contract size to account size ratio. Okay, so you only want to go for 50K accounts, 20 of them, and the drawdown is 5% intraday unrealized. So in the evaluation phase and the funded phase, it's unrealized, so it's always going to be unrealized in that phase. Now the profit target is going to be 6%, and the challenge cost, because they run about 80% discounts, is going to be $33.4 for a 50K account. And the PA fees are usually $125 for the lifetime now, and they do have 1-to-1 mini to micro scaling. And the beauty of it is, once you make 6% profit on the funded account, the unrealized trailing drawdown locks at the initial balance, and you can request a payout every 10 trading days. So again, there is a consistency rule on the PA accounts. PA accounts are just a fancy term for funded accounts. That's what they call the accounts. Okay, but yeah. And basically, there's no rules. You can literally do whatever the fuck you want on the eval. You can negative RR scalp. You can risk 4%. You can literally gamble whatever you want on the evals. But on the funded accounts, on the PA accounts, you have very strict rules. Okay. As I said, on a 50K account, you do not want to make more than, in my opinion, you do not want to make more than $1,000 per day. If you want to get a payout in 10 trading days, do not make more than $1,000 per day. But you would have to make $1,000 every single day for those 10 days, right? And you can only request 4% every 10 trading days, which is 40K every 2 weeks with a 50K account, but that's a lot of money. So in theory, you can basically be making about 80K a month just through 20 50K accounts on Apex. It is possible. And the beauty of Apex is after 4 months, you can really scale hard and withdraw really, really, really big profits. So let's say, you're up 50%, so 500K, and you're really consistent. You're over 4 months, and your 4 months have passed. They have some, they have some rules saying that, hey, after you hit that 4-month mark, you can withdraw all your money out of that out of those accounts essentially, which is pretty wild if you ask me. And yeah, 2050 accounts, 1 million in funding. That is how this works. And the total cost with the challenge and activation fee is 3.1k, 3.2k, because you have to pay the challenge fees as well as the activation fees. Okay, so where does this all come in? How does this all relevant in terms of the total cost? So in my opinion, okay, the total theoretical, not opinion, but the total theoretical funding, you go to all these firms, you add all the costs, the total theoretical funding is 4.7 million. It is possible. The total cost is going to be about 13k. Okay, about 13k. Now, if they run a couple discounts, so like all the firms, if they run discounts, you can have, and you use my code, you can, take off like a 1k, 2k off this price. So it'll be about 10k, 10, 11k, let's say, for total theoretical funding of $4.7 million. Okay, now, again, we're not talking about CFD funding. If you want to do that, it's going to be 4.8k. You can technically do both at the same time. But my personal favorite of what I want to do is I want to do this. So my personal opinion in what I think in terms is best in terms of cost, scalability, rules, Top Step, MyFunded Futures, Alpha Futures, Apex, and TPT. So the total theoretical funding with that, and I don't think you need more than this. If you don't want to include TPT, you don't have to. But it's going to be $3.4 million in funding, and the total cost is going to be about 9k, 9.6k. Obviously, with the code, it'll be about 9k, 9k, 8.8k, something around there. And yeah, that's really it, guys. That's the total theoretical funding that you can get. And this is what I'm going to be going for in 2025. And again, make sure you kind of have all the rules on lock. Okay. And you understand that, hey, if you want to, scale all these accounts and use them, you need a trade copier as well. You're going to use either Replicanto or TradeSyncer. I can make a video on that in the future. But yeah, guys, this is exactly what you're going to need to understand how these challenges work. This video, and yeah, man, this video was long. I'm gonna tell you, this is one of my longest videos, but I hope this was informative for you guys. If you have any questions, you can obviously shoot me a DM. You can also obviously just join my free Discord. I'm gonna link it as well. Ask me a question there. But I hope this was informative for y'all. And yeah, AA Bands out. Peace.